Faith by Design Pioneer is an inspiring young woman who from the age of 19 knew design was where her heart lay. So she began by making basically bookmarks in college. The college gave her a stall, and that's where she started selling. That's where the heart for designs was born. So at the right time, she founded her outfit that provides a range of products which are all giveaway products. Her best influence in her life is a father, a civil servant, and a man of high integrity who taught her to really work hard and with diligence to follow the dream of her heart and to be able to live with integrity. Let's put our hands together for Karuna Jerome, who believes everyone needs inspiration.
Every book has an author, every song has a writer, every design has a creator, and every person has a purpose planted by our Maker. A purpose for his grand design, for his beautiful story, his song in all of our lives. And as I prepared for today, I was so conscious of the fact that I'm in a room with more than 500 powerful stories. This is just a small showcase of what God is doing in each of our lives. And all of our stories are part of his grand tapestry. There are stories that move us, heart-wrenching stories, inspirational stories, heartbreaking stories, motivational stories. And Jesus used parables too. He used stories. You know, I'm the kind of person that if I had to watch a movie, it would take me at least 3 repeats to actually get the plot of the story. So, you know, and then much later I'll see, oh, that's why he said what he said or did what he did. And I think it's the same with looking back at life. When I look back at my life, I realize there's a plot to the story. And each time I've paused and thought about this journey, there's been something new that I see in the plot. So I'm going to share this journey with you. So if I had to summarize my favorite childhood memory in one picture, it would be that. All things bright, beautiful, colorful, anything to do with art, craft. And you know, the class that I loved the most was SUPW, popularly known as Some Useful Period Wasted. So yes, I was the uncool kid who loved it. I couldn't wait for Friday evenings. And I thought that would be like the Friday evening last bit, that would just be a small part of my life. So I completed my 10th and then was faced with the decision of what I would do. And the most popular one, I did science. So if anyone asked me why I chose science, I would very confidently say to keep my options open. But in reality, I had no clue as to what I wanted to do. So my mom talked about how I could help people, work, serve people, so doing medicine would be good. My dad said, you argue well, do law. I like designs. I said, okay, the closest would be architecture. So I got into my years of pre-university doing science. And those were the years during which my relationship with God transitioned. Until then, I saw God as someone who was powerful. He controlled the universe. And it was then that it moved into understanding God as, yes, someone who's powerful, but someone who could be my best friend, someone I could have a conversation with, not just monologues. And so I began thinking about what I wanted to do, and then I asked God the one most important question that changed everything. I said, Lord, what did you make me for? And the answer came slowly. It wasn't like there was one clear answer and I knew what I needed to do. Over the next few months, I kept thinking about what I wanted to do. I wrote the entrance exam for medicine, for law, for architecture. And during that time, my English teacher at science asked me, have you ever considered studying English and writing? And I was like, who would think of that? And I politely just said, not really. But at the end of PUC, there was a stirring within me to write the entrance exam for that as well. A series of odd events led to me taking up mass communication, knowing that I could then consider the professional courses since the results came out later. But once I made that decision and began the course, there was that deep sense of peace. There was a certainty that this is where I should be. Why? I don't know. I didn't see it then, but I knew that's where I should be. And then during second year, I went back again and I said, Lord, what did you make me for? because I felt that's the only place I would find my fulfillment. And as I prayed about it, there was this verse that came really clearly. Each one should use whatever gift he has received to serve others, faithfully administering God's grace in its various forms. And I thought about it and I said, whatever gift? And the only gift I could think of was creativity. And I thought, okay, can this be a spiritual gift? How do you share God's grace through this? Is it right? Is it okay? Is there something else I'm missing? Is this really the confirmation? And so I went back again with questions. And I said, Lord, now I need another confirmation from you. What is this the gift? Am I hearing right? Do I use creativity? And how do I use it to serve you? And then there was the next confirmation. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. And I thought about it. Every good and perfect gift. The giver of the gift is the same. He's the one who trusted me with this, and all I had to do was offer that gift back. And that's when I realized God's call on my life is tied to what brings me joy. It wasn't something that I had to struggle with and wrestle with and wonder how I would, set out with. It was just something that I enjoyed doing. And then I kept thinking, I said, okay, what can I do with this? And that's when the idea of by Faith Designz was birthed, a company that would use the creative arts to bless, encourage, and inspire people. So I set out not ever thinking I would ever be an entrepreneur, never a business person. And I said, okay, let me just start with what I know. I thought about the name of the company, in fact, and typically an artist signs off saying, signed by Karuna or named after the person's name. And I said, this is going to be something large. I didn't know what, I didn't know how. And as I prayed about it, it took a while. It was during second year at college, and it was clear that this would not be by Karuna, it would be by Faith. So I drew the logo on the pages in my notebook, and then a professor spotted that and said, why don't you set up your first stall in college? And there I painted the first banner ever and had our first product ever. We had bookmarks. It was a 3-day fest, so I made 300 bookmarks, printed it at home, cycled up to the complex, laminated it and hand cut each one, and I thought 300 would be enough. All 300 were sold on day one, and what was most exciting was that people would come and read it and say, this one's for you, that's for you, and I would intersperse it with something inspirational. There would be scripture, there would be something as simple as never give up or dream big. And just watching that, I said, okay, this is what creativity can do. And the years that followed, I continued setting up stalls. I had stall after stall over the next 15 months or so, pop-up stalls, stalls at carnivals, just expanding the product range. And it was also at this time that a professor at college one day announces in class that we're going to have a session in poetry writing. And he said, every student's going to write a poem. So there I was, and I said, write a poem, and how could I ever do that? And he said, each one's going to, and I'm going to call out names. And I tried to hide behind the ones in front, and sure enough, he says, we'll begin with Karuna. So I head back home, and I was annoyed. I didn't want to do it, but I had to do it. And I have no idea why. I decided to write on shooting stars. So how do I begin? Shooting stars, pick out all the words that rhyme with stars, star, car, far, mar, whatever, frame sentences backwards, wrote a poem that I don't even remember, and then we had to present it to the class. The classmates were very kind to appreciate it and saw deep meaning in it. They said it expresses the poet's wishes because you wish on a shooting star, and I had honestly no clue, but assignment was done and over with. The same year during my internship at Kerigma, Jacob Isaac says, okay, for the next session, and I would help with the design and creative stuff, and he said, you're writing a poem. And I was like, what's it with people and asking me to write poems? And the topic is loneliness. I said, even worse. I mean, it's something deep. So I asked a friend to play the guitar, and I said, when I read the poem, play the guitar so it sounds dramatic and lonely. But that was the first time I actually prayed before I wrote. And to date, when I look back at it, I can see God's hand in every word. But I finished that assignment, and I said, that's my journey with poetry, done with it. I continued with stalls. I continued focusing on the product, focused primarily on design, and then graduated from college. And then I felt I needed to prepare myself for this, for God's call on my life. So what was the first big door that I looked at? Hillsong. Hillsong had a course in worship and creative art, and I said, that's perfect for me to get equipped for the call. So I applied for the course, went through the exam and whatever was required for it, got through, and then applied for the visa. After a long wait, I get a letter saying, your visa is denied because of insufficient funds. So I say, okay, but I believe God's led me to this. There has to be something to it. So if the door's not opening, let's bang. So let's apply once more. So no knocking, let's push. So I applied all over again, submitted the documents, submitted letters explaining how I would definitely come back to India, how we would pay back a loan or what we could do, and went through, and I had shared it with friends because there wasn't much time. Bags were packed, received farewell gifts, and it was a Bible, so. And then, after that long wait, I receive a letter again that says, your visa is denied, and it was the same reason. It didn't make sense. It was upsetting, not because of the reason. And this is where I'm going to add a footnote. My dad was in the Indian Administrative Service, and receiving a letter saying that you can't go because of insufficient funds says a lot about him. And I'm proud of the fact that we have a rich heritage. Integrity was non-negotiable. It was a part of our lives. And when I heard stories of so many of you in the government, I want to say that as a daughter, and I can see this from my brother, the blessings we have, money cannot buy, money cannot take away. It is worth it. So I continued with what I knew, and I just continued setting up stalls. I would look at banners and say, Lord, one day I want to have hoardings where I could tell the world that God loves them, all these grand dreams. But it was just temporary stall after stall. It was at this time that I started designing. I have never studied design till date, no formal training. But I started designing newsletters, books, annual reports. And when I designed it, there was thought to it. And I didn't want the reader to miss the idea behind it. So I started writing a few lines about each design. I had no idea that poetry was happening there. And after a few years of writing, I had readers who got back and said, can you give us a collection of what you've written? I said, collection? And they said, yeah, we just want to share it as, some way we could encourage people. One thing led to another. And in 2006, Patchwork Pieces was published, a collection of all the poetry, the thing that I thought I would never do. And as we launched the book as well in Forum Mall, we rolled out a banner over 2 stories in the building, 2 floors, and I was reminded of that little dream that I had. I wish I could paint hoardings and tell the world that God loves them. And I knew that if God can give me that little desire in my heart, there had to be a reason for that closed door. Patchwork Pieces went on to be a bestseller at Landmark, and it was beyond what I could have ever imagined. The following years, went back to temporary pop-up stalls. I kept trying to get a place to have, by Faith, have a store, but there was closed door after closed door, and it just didn't work out. And so I just continued doing what I knew best. But then it was 2010, and that was 10 years since the first little stall in college. And it was one morning in July that I was really, really upset about it. And I think the long journey had taken its toll. And I woke up one morning on Sunday, and I made this prayer. I have never prayed this prayer before or after. I said, Lord, I'm going to surrender by faith to you. If that's my Isaac on the altar, so be it. But I need to know if you want me to press in with this, I will. If you want me to let go of it, I will. But I need to hear, and I'm really feeling torn. So speak to me in a way that's really clear. And then I said, and mentioned my name, before heading to church. And the church I worship at APC, we don't really have words of knowledge announced or people's names. So it wasn't like I was hoping for a lucky draw that day. It was really a bold prayer. And I went in with that raw heart to church. And pastor starts preaching, and he talks about faith, and he goes on to talk about by faith. And I said, okay, it's church, maybe faith, by faith. And he goes on to talk about how God designs our lives by faith. And then suddenly he pauses and he says, I'm going to call today's sermon by Faith Designz. And I froze. And then he looks around after a few seconds and says, I wonder if Karuna is here today. And That was a clear confirmation. There was no turning back after that. I stepped forward. I continued looking for space, and that's when there was clarity that by faith, while the seed of a dream of a product, of design as a service, wasn't what by faith would be about. By faith was about people. It was about people coming together. It was about an experience. And so, over time, as the stalls continued, I saw children own this idea. They would create their own marketing material for by faith. By faith belonged to them. I saw families come together across age groups, different people came together, and that's when the dream was redefined. That while By Faith would be the company, Be Thoughtful would be the brand name for the store. It would focus on people. By Faith would define the culture, what we focused on. Be Thoughtful would define the experience in the place. And so I had this whole grand plan of having multiple parts to the place and didn't know what to do. So I continued looking for spaces, and nothing really worked out till then. And then came 2015. 2015 was a year that as I stepped in, I felt, okay, this long season of waiting has come to a time where it's going to bear fruit. And I saw an advertisement for a course at IIM Bangalore for women entrepreneurs. Until then, the closed doors left me with the feeling that I would almost expect a closed door. But when I applied with this grand, what I called my dream, but business school would call a B plan, I applied, but there was this confidence that this is the time. I got through for the course and did that course, and you know what? It was only last year that I realized that I assumed the training for God's call on my life was at Bible college. No, it was going to be at business school. And then I completed the course, and there was clarity that Be Thoughtful to begin with would have a gift store, a design studio, art and craft supplies, a workshop, and a cafe. From that one little idea of a stall selling bookmarks, it grew into this where the focus would still really be people. So I stepped out again looking for spaces, and then one day when I was looking for a space, I thought God needed help. I said, you know what, I don't mind, Lord, just give me one small room, we'll start with that, I'll settle for that. And while making that prayer, I turned around and see this place. I walk into that space, and it had exactly 5 rooms. And each room was exactly the size proportionate to the idea and the plan. Within a month, that whole season of waiting changed. We signed up for the agreement, the rental agreement, set up shop, and opened it in October of 2015. This is the day when we opened shop, and I looked at it, and my heart each day as I walk into the space is just filled with gratitude. But God wouldn't stop at that. He's filled this place with more than we can ask for, think of, or even imagine. We have a gift store. We have the gift wrapping section. This is the design studio. We have the art and craft supplies section, the workshop space, and the space with food, the Honor Cafe. The Honor Cafe is a place where there's home-baked food. My mother takes care of it. She loves feeding people, and the thought that people can just come and eat and enjoy food without having to pay. So people can eat what they want, pay as they will in the box, and we also have baking workshops here. If I look at the past 3 years, it's been such a beautiful journey. And you know, the most common question that I've heard are, how are the numbers doing? How's the footfall? Have you broken even? What are your profits? And all those are good and important because we want to run a healthy business, a business that excels. But to me, most importantly, if there's one thing that we would measure ourselves is, we would pray every day that let love underscore everything we do, and may excellence be our hallmark. And if we had to define success today, if I had to look at it, I would say success is really fulfilling the purpose I was made for in a way that is true and right in the eyes of God. Living by faith is truly worth it.
There's something beautiful and powerful about creativity. It has the incredible ability to make life meaningful and simply enjoyable. Creativity permeates all of our lives, and as children we express it without inhibition. My fondest memories as a child include paper, craft, art, threads, colors, sparkles, all things creative, and I thought this would just remain a hobby or maybe just an extracurricular activity. But over the years, creativity just grew with me. I enjoyed it more and more with each passing year, and I realized it's the common thread in the fabric of all of our lives as individuals and as a community. This birthed the idea of Faith Designz, a company that would use the creative arts to bless, encourage, and inspire. It began with the logo being sketched in notebooks at college, and then later hand painted onto a cloth banner, and then the first stall ever, which is bookmarks. The years that followed saw many a stall at carnivals, events, and programs, and the product range grew over years, and so did the dream. A dream to have a space that would celebrate life and love through creative excellence. It took 15 years of multiple pop-up stalls and an obstinate faith that someday By Faith would have a place to call home. After many years and many closed doors, in 2015, By Faith had its first brick and mortar store, Be Thoughtful. Be Thoughtful is a place where you can buy a gift, make a gift, more importantly, explore your gifting, or simply be. Creativity is a gift given to all of us, a gift that we can receive and we can give away again and again. It's a gift that brings people together, it's a gift that brings out the child in us, it celebrates what is true and lovely, and it just adds joy to this journey of life. Be Thoughtful is a testament to the fact that God-given dreams do come true. No matter how long the wait, how steep the climb, how difficult the journey, nothing is impossible with God. And we're in this journey together of celebrating life, celebrating people, and celebrating all of our dreams. Where there is love, there is life, and where there's a dream, there is hope. Dream big, never give up. The future holds the finest.